We have been here after the Supercoppa Italia victory. We will be here even after a terrible defeat, like the one against Udinese at home. We are Lazio Lounge, the only podcast in English about La Prima Squadra della Capitale. Alistair, it isn't pretty, it isn't fun to be here, but we're always here for all our Lazio fans and people who want to be updated about Lazio. So we have to do it, even if it's very hard today to talk about Lazio, right?
Yeah, there are certainly some days when you'd rather kind of crawl under a rock than talk about Lazio. But no, I mean, yeah, we have to address it. It's even more important sometimes, I guess, to address the bad things that are happening and the good things. And unfortunately, Sunday was very, very bad and almost inexplicably bad, I'd say. It was one of the most kind of catastrophic results, unexpected results that we've had for a while.
Yeah, very similar, I would say, to the match we lost at Genoa against Sampdoria. My impression is that the team wasn't focused. Now, I don't know if it's Inzaghi to blame for this or the players simply were focused already to Dortmund match, and this will be the second time because even against Sampdoria, we were playing against Borussia Dortmund for the Champions League a couple of days later. Do you think this is related or is pure coincidence?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily as simple as being a case of we've got a big game coming up and they're already thinking ahead. I think it's just that the fixture list is so ridiculously relentless at the moment that it almost means that if your focus can easily slip. And I do feel that that's what happened. I mean, Inzaghi came out afterwards and was quite critical of the attitude of his players. I would also criticise some of Inzaghi's selection. Yes, in retrospect, it's easy to do that, but I think that there is an argument to be made there as well. And yeah, it did show quite clearly, because the thing is, it's not just losing at home to Udinese, it's losing at home to an Udinese side that's just had an outbreak of COVID in their squads. Their coach wasn't there. They're missing about 6 players who would have started if they were all available. And Udinese had played 120 minutes in the Coppa Italia on Wednesday. We played 90 minutes on Tuesday, so we don't have that excuse. So almost everything pointed to Lazio winning this match. You know, there would have been very few people going into this expecting anything other than the Lazio win. So I think it is that. It's that kind of. I heard on the radio coming back from the game, they were talking about this kind of. They were being kind of presumptuous, you know, in the way that they approached the game. They had this kind of feeling maybe that just turning up would be enough, and it was very clear that it wasn't. And that's a concern, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if Inzaghi underestimated Udinese. Obviously, with all the players missing, this should have been an easy match. But at the same time, I think, and this is one of the questions, even with the Lazio B team, Lazio should be able to beat this Udinese. I mean, I cannot believe that Lazio lost because Catalde played instead of Leva. Then we can argue that Catalde played terrible, and that's absolutely fair. But I still think that if Inzaghi plays the B team against this Udinese, still the B team of Lazio is better and should have won. So yeah, I don't think we can blame the players that played. I think, I don't know, maybe it's the message Inzaghi. Everybody was convinced that Acqua Pro would start and Leva. So when he gave the formation with Parolo and Cataldi instead, I don't know, maybe the other players relaxed, saying, okay, this is not our focus. We already focus on the Champions League. Is that an excuse, though, Alistair?
No, of course it's not. And like I say, despite Lazio being involved in that competition and all the demands that it has, Udinese themselves had their own midweek game to deal with. And let's be perfectly honest about what happened here. That was a pretty strong, not quite full strength, but almost full strength Lazio team against what you would call an Udinese B team.
Yeah.
Yes, they still had, De Paul was there, Pussetto was there, but that wasn't, you look at that team sheet and it's not exactly striking fear into your heart. I mean, I think that was Forestieri's first Serie A goal for something like 12 years. So it's not a team that should have really set any alarm bells ringing, but they came with this plan and they executed it well. I know a lot of the reaction to this game has been hugely critical of Lazio, and rightly so, because they didn't apply themselves, they didn't react when they needed to, they had big lapses in concentration, they were made to pay for it. But at the end of the day, Udinese were just, they came with a plan that was better than Lazio's. The physical battle was a joke, especially in the first half. Udinese looked like men against children half the time. Immobile, Correa, Alberto trying to kind of dance their way through this team, and it was just these huge Udinese players everywhere, cutting down all the spaces, suffocating them of any time on the ball, and they just didn't have an answer to it. And it's a bit frustrating because that shouldn't be anything new to Lazio, to come up against teams who play well organised, low block. That's nothing new, but they had no answer to it this time.
And when you have that physical team like Udinese, the secret is to play faster, because obviously they're more physical, but they're slower. Instead, Lazio was playing like it was a Saturday morning friendly match. They was jogging around, and we saw it because in the first half, the only time they accelerated, Correa was in front of the goalkeeper. And that was the only time in the first 45 minutes where Lazio suddenly increased the speed, and Udinese was immediately in big troubles. So this is the most concerning thing, because it's not like when we play against Club Brugge that we had 8 players missing and so on. Apart from Milinkovic Savic, everybody was there pretty much, and Lazio didn't show on. We can say that the first goal of Udinese was a little bit of luck because Acerbi deflected the goal, etc. But let's be honest, Alistair, I think Musso did only one save in the first half.
Yeah.
And in the second, Lazio started pushing when the match was pretty much over already. So we can even blame, saying, the goalkeeper was unbelievable. No, he wasn't.
Yeah, and there was a real desperation to the way Lazio responded to that as well. It wasn't a case of them sticking to their principles, sticking to their game plan, and saying, with patience, we are the better team here, we'll get the rewards. By the end, I mean, Inzaghi was playing with a 4-2-4 essentially, or a 4-3-3. Kind of, it kept changing. I was trying to keep on top of what the hell he was doing, but it was very confusing. But 3 strikers on the pitch, throwing players on, playing in unfamiliar positions, and in a desperate attempt to just find some sort of answer. And that was the moment at which I thought, he's been out-coached today. He's actually lost the coaching battle, because he's not been able to find any response to the way that Udinese didn't change the way they played from start to finish. Didn't change. And Lazio never managed to adapt in a way that actually caused them problems. The goal we eventually get is just from winning a penalty on the off chance, more or less.
Yeah, and Alistair, this brings us back to the old Simone Inzaghi. Do you remember when things were struggling? He immediately started putting in strikers. But it's not that if you play with 5 strikers, suddenly you create chances. I think it was exactly the opposite. He said that Andreas Pereira is not a left wing or a right wing. He needs to play instead of Luis Alberto on that position. And instead, Inzaghi started putting Pereira, Caicedo. They didn't know how to play, and Lazio stopped playing because there was only confusion there. So I think, yes, you were down 2-0, etc. But this was the old Simone Inzaghi that went too soon in the panic mode. I think the substitution were too in a hurry. Lazio didn't start that bad the second half, but very soon lost the organization with all this substitution. And that pretty much killed all the chance we had to get a point out of this match.
I'll read a few of the comments we've had now. I mean, Philip Pizzano said, terrible game. Never looked like winning from the opening whistle. Wanted to see Akpa Pro start this game. Fares was really poor and looked like he had no confidence. Then David said, really bad performance from Lazio. They underestimated Udinese, who had a perfect game. He also says, I think Akpa should have started along with Andreas Pereira. So there's two in a row there who have said they think Akpro should have been in the starting lineup. I did say at the start it's easy in hindsight to make these calls, but it would have also, you like to think, looking at Udinese's squad, looking at the way they play, would it not have been sensible to have a few more kind of physical or energetic, dynamic players rather than all these kind of lightweight players?
You know what? I didn't like Catalde's performance because I thought he was very slow. And one thing we noticed last year is that he was much faster than for example, Leva. And that was a positive sign for Lazio. Yesterday, against Udinese, he was so slow. He was struggling all the time. He was very late. So we know what Akpa Pro brings to the table. He's a speedy, he's a fighter, etc. So definitely he would have helped more than Catalde. I don't know. I think Inzaghi was surprised, like I was, to see Catalde playing so slowly and struggling so much. But yeah, we were all expecting Akpa Pro and Milinkovic Savic maybe to start, as Sergej was back from the COVID-19. I don't know if that sent the message to the team that, okay, guys, we are focusing on Wednesday. We should be able to win it even without concentrating too much, which obviously was wrong. But yeah, I mean, last year, as I said that Catalde was a sort of new signing because he played so well. This year, every time he played honestly bad. And this is a concern because, again, it looks like he improved in the Inzaghi hierarchy, and he's often playing instead of Leva, etc. Maybe we should see Escalante there from now on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to have Escalante back. You know, he's obviously didn't get on the pitch, but he was back on the bench. And, you know, this team that's the thing, this team is almost back to full strength now. This wasn't what was supposed to happen. I mean, eight games unbeaten. Yes, not always playing absolutely brilliantly in that time, but, you know, five wins and 3 draws and playing some big teams in that period. That was a really good run and showed that Lazio did have this capability of kind of just, when that momentum builds, going with it. What I'm most concerned about now is, I mean, there's all sorts of kind of ugly statistical things that have come out of this game. I mean, this is our worst start to the season now for 7 years. Is one, we've conceded the most goals by this stage of the season, I think, since '92. So those are bad things, but at the same time, and I wrote a kind of post-match piece about this, the home form, we've talked about this before, but since the fans have been outside the stadium, Lazio just aren't performing at home. And I had a look at it, and, you know, the Bologna game is the only home win we've had this season in 5 attempts. And in 10 games that we've had since they closed the doors, Lazio have only won 3 overall, which is 30% win rate at home is not good enough. And that's a real concern, because that used to be, this is the point, is that it's not just that, okay, Lazio aren't playing well enough at home. It's that before then, we were, I think, 17 games unbeaten at home. So it used to be something we could just rely on without even thinking about it. And now, for one reason or another, the games in the Olimpico are a bit of an issue.
Yeah, definitely. And the reason is quite easy to understand, right? The fans are very important for Lazio, especially in a big stadium like the Stadio Olimpico. There are other stats that scares me. One that we have to talk about is Luis Alberto this season in Serie A had 0 assists. Last year he was top assist of Serie A. This year 0. And I thought he played very bad against Udinese. He looks very nervous, and we talked about it. he's one of the secret of this team, obviously, and one of the reasons why Ciro Immobile won the Golden Boot, because all the assists he provided to Ciro Immobile. Now this year he's at 0, and this is a big problem, especially considering that we're not getting the assists we were hoping to get from the wingers, right? So the only chance for us is Luis Alberto, and if he plays like that, I mean, it's better not having it. And the fact that he wasn't happy when he came out, I think this is another problem, because he should know that he played bad. And now that Lazio has Andreas Pereira, well, maybe he should start instead of Luis Alberto to challenge him a little bit. We saw it with Marusic, right? When Lazzari came, Marusic improved a lot. He's a better player now that he knows that he has to fight for get his time on the pitch. I think maybe it's time for Luis Alberto to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I agree with the fact that, yes, he's not producing the numbers that he used to, but at the same time, it was only a few days ago that I was singing his praises for the way he played against Zenit. And, you know, assists are a relatively recent kind of statistical landmark, I suppose. And they can be a bit misleading because, you know, you can play, he played that amazing pass to Correa after 4 minutes in the Udinese game, for example, which would be worthy of an assist, but Correa just didn't finish it this time. So it's not really that he's not always doing his job, as that the chances aren't being finished off that he's creating. But yeah, I do agree he's not been playing at the levels that maybe we've become accustomed to, or maybe he's not quite, I don't know, got back in his stride again. I think that the fact he's not been able to link up with Immobile as much as he has done previously might be something to do with that. But yeah, he's exactly the kind of player you need in a game like this against a team who are willing to sit deep and try and suffocate the match. He's exactly who you want to just unlock something. But, you know, after that pass to Correa after 4 minutes, I think that was about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I also have to say, I think, I've made this point already, but I do just think that this is a weird season, and this isn't an excuse for the result or anything like that. It's just that we've already seen across Europe's top leagues, and we'll get onto Dortmund in a bit. For example, Dortmund lost to Cologne this weekend, having been absolutely flying before then. And Cologne, I think, were in the relegation zone as well. So there's all sorts of weird results going on. You know, Aston Villa beat Liverpool 7-2. I mean, and I think we have to get used to the fact that because the fixture list is as compressed as it is, because players are going in and out of squads more readily, more quickly than they have done in the past, I think we're going to see more freak results throughout this season. And I hope that that's what this is. I hope this is just an anomaly. That's why, you know, given Lazio's form before this was pretty solid, I'm not, you know, completely dejected now thinking that Lazio are on a downward spiral. I do wonder if this is just going to end up being a blip, an anomaly.
Could be, even though, yes, you're right, there are a lot of matches, but it's true that now you have 5 substitutions, so this should help the teams. But we noticed this weekend, all the teams that perform well in Champions League have lost, or, well, Juventus draw against Benevento, but come on, it's like losing for Juventus. The only team winning is the one that lost in Champions League. So this definitely proves something. I think we have to talk about probably the biggest issue, because Mohamed Fares was the player we were hoping to improve the left side of Lazio. And Alisson, this didn't happen. Not only he made mistakes, which, you know, can happen, but the biggest concern is what happened in the second goal of Udinese. He lost the ball and didn't track back. He stayed there watching it. And this is something that I cannot accept. You can make mistakes, everybody does, but you have to fight to fix your problem, to help the team. He didn't. And this, to me, is the biggest problem.
Yeah, well, actually, we've got a excuse me, a comment. I just need to get some water. Actually, you talk for a minute.
Well, you know, we all said Johnny it's not good enough for the 3-5-2. Fares can defend better. This is not the first goal Lazio get from a Fares mistake. What was it against Juventus? He lost the ball. He made a soft tackle in the midfield, and then Juventus scored from that. Again, Lazzari this week said Fares is a great player. He's a little bit shy. I don't think this have nothing to do with Fares be shy. If you go and watch that action, you see that Lazzari tracked back and Fares is not there. So and after that, Lazzari looked back, trying to see where Fares is. I think this tells you a lot. And this is a problem because, again, you can make mistakes, but you have to do something to fix them, or at least fight.
Yeah, well, one of the comments we got, it did actually include a fair bit of swearing, and as this is a family-friendly podcast, I'll alter it slightly. But Leo agreed wholeheartedly with what you've just been saying, basically. He said, even poor players make up for a lack of quality with effort. Fares is a bad player with no confidence, but what he can't be is a bad player with no heart. Even bad players would run back like a bat out of hell if they make an error and lose the ball in midfield, which is exactly the same sentiment you've just been saying. So on the same page there, I'd agree. I think that especially when you're out of form, you know, if you're adapting to a new club, you I think have the right to be given time, to be given the benefit of the doubt to a certain extent. And I've been, you know, trying to defend Fares a fair bit, and Murici and the rest of them while they get used to this team. But Fares has played more minutes than any other new signing for Lazio. He's got the most expectation on him, I would say, because of the fact that he has had the most time to sort it out. And that's something that you can control. You know, you can't always control that, whether you're going to understand properly exactly what's expected of you in a new team, a new system, how you're going to link up with players, how blah, blah, blah. But what you can control is exactly that, how much heart you put in, how much hard work you're willing to put in. And I think when you're under pressure in the way that Fares is, you absolutely have to do that. So that is a disappointment, and it's not going to do him any good. I said, and you know, for our Patreon users have access to our post-match. We were doing full-time reaction videos when we're still very emotional. And this week I was saying that I had a feeling, you know, that moment to me felt a little bit, had a ring of Valon Berisha against Celtic to it. I don't think it'll be quite that catastrophic. If anyone's forgotten, Berisha gave the ball away, Celtic scored, and he never played for Lazio again. But I don't think it'll be like that for Fares. But I do think that he can't really get away with too many more of those kind of errors before people lose patience with him.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play against Borussia. I think this is going to happen. Maruzic is going to slide on the left side. And I wouldn't be surprised if next weekend Javan Anderson starts instead of Fares. Right. Maybe the player need a little bit of rest, because again, it's not the mistake, it's the effort that wasn't there. We complain about Johnny a lot of time, but at least Johnny was trying. He was trying to defend. So I think, and the other thing about Fares is he comes from Serie A. He comes from a team that plays 3-5-2. Yes, there are differences, obviously, but I mean, it's more harder from Murici to come from Turkey to Italy. Completely different system than Fares. And so yeah, this is a big problem. This could be again a big problem, even because Alazar, Lulic seemed very close to recover, and then he had a setback, which is only setback number 9897546 in the last couple of months. He flew back to Switzerland to have a check because his ankle is hurting again. So it looked like he could play against Udinese, and now we don't know if he's gonna be back in 1 month or so. And this again, it's a problem. It could be a bigger problem, and bring me to the question: why Inzaghi didn't put in the list Sofian Keane? I thought he did very well at Salernitana, and he can play in that position, and could be very interesting to see him playing there.
Oh, sorry, I lost you there. I think I get the sense of what you're saying. That Sofian Keane should have been in the squad, right?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I don't think you could have predicted this really. You know, we've signed a good, experienced, like you say, Serie A left wing back who seems to have everything we need to come in and make that position his own. And behind him, we've got Senad Lulic eventually coming back from injury. We've got Adam Marasic showing that he can play on that left slot. I mean, Javan Anderson's still kicking about as well. I mean, there are options, so you can understand why the squad's been put together the way it has. And I think it's, for me, still too soon to say it was a terrible decision. I mean, for example, I still don't think that Dennis Vavro has been treated fairly. I think that the judgment being made on what kind of a player he is, how he can play for Lazio, has just come too soon. I don't think he's played enough. And I don't want the same thing to keep happening where we sign players who seem to have something to offer and they don't get any games, or they're expected to just immediately burst into this team and do something. I mean, it's not a problem, but the thing is, Inzaghi has been at this, since Inzaghi's been at this club for 4.5 years, 5 years now. It's always been that there's kind of a skeleton to this team, and it has changed slightly, but there's generally been the same skeleton to this team, which has helped him achieve this success. So it's not that easy to. It's incredible. I think credit is due to players like Lazzari and Acerbi, who've been able to come in and become part of that spine of this team as quickly as they have. But in reality, most players are like a Dennis Vavro or Mo Fares, where they will need time to work out exactly what to do. How about this? I mean, Alexander Mikkelsen's asked us a question which was a slightly different take on things that I thought was quite interesting. It's about the Peruzzi thing that we talked about last week. Peruzzi's situation still not resolved, but he said, what impact did the Peruzzi saga have on the performance yesterday? If Peruzzi is hired to keep the dressing room united and in sync, then I speculate how the situation concerning him is affecting the dressing room. So, when we were talking about this lack of the right attitude or application, do you think there's a connection between that and Peruzzi not being around?
I don't think so, because Peruzzi was around when Lazio lost 3-0 against Sampdoria. I think that the good thing of having Peruzzi around is that rumors or things that happen in the locker room doesn't get published on Gazzetta dello Sport and things like that. And obviously he keeps the team together, which can definitely help after this defeat. So again, I said it last podcast, Peruzzi is very important for this team, but I don't think this is the reason why the team lost against Udinese Sunday. Honestly, I don't think so.
No, I mean I think it's a tempting thing to look at because of the circumstances, but also he wasn't around for the Zenit game, for example, and that was a brilliant Lazio performance. It's more worrying for me that Lazio can go from a performance, a 3-1 win that was as impressive as that was, to a 3-1 defeat that was as unimpressive as that was. So now the question is really what we're going to get on Wednesday, because the Dortmund game away, this Vittorio is like, this is the moment that Lazio can actually make the last 16 in the Champions League with 1 game to spare, which would be, let's be completely honest about it, an incredible achievement and not something that we would have even dreamed of really before the draw was made.
I mean, people are not thinking, but Inter is pretty much out, and that should be a disaster for that team. And Lazio has a big chance not only to qualify, but if we beat Dortmund, we can arrive first. Again, I think, and Lazio showed it in the first leg, that this team have all the tools to win against Dortmund, because Dortmund is a great team, don't get me wrong, but has a very slow defense. And that's perfect for Correa, Ciro Immobile. So I think Lazio, if they play as we saw, not against Udinese, but for example, against Dortmund in the first match, they can beat Borussia Dortmund. And let's not forget that with that 1 point, it's pretty much done for Lazio as well. So it's a very important match. I think the players will be really, really focused. It's going to be complicated because Haaland is an incredible player. So it would be a big test for Lazio's defense. But at the same time, I think also for Dortmund defense, it would be a big challenge. So I'm confident. I'm confident.
Yeah, I mean, they do seem to be saving their best for the Champions League. And hopefully, you know, if they can get the result they need, and even if, you know, if Bruges lose to Zenit, for example, and Lazio can be assured of qualification with a game to spare, I just hope that would be able to refocus them a bit more for these Serie A games, because there is this run at the moment. Obviously, Udinese was the first game of quite an important run of winnable Serie A games, and it was a real missed opportunity this weekend to actually make up some ground in the top four that they missed, and I don't think they can afford to miss too many others. So obviously it's a massive game for what it means in Europe, but it's also, I think, a massive game for what it means for the league season too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. And winning in Champions League would be an incredible boost for Lazio for the rest of the season. So yes, it's definitely a very important match. Again, as you said, it all depends even on Club Brugge. If they lose against Zenit, let's not forget that Zenit needs points to qualify at least for the Europe League. If Club Brugge loses, then it's done. Lazio can even come back from Germany with a defeat, which we obviously hope won't happen, but we will get through. So yeah, I'm very confident, and I think this team always played well in the big match, which is completely different from a couple of years ago. So I think Lazio will play well. I'm not saying we will win or get a point, but I think Lazio will play well against Borussia, which is very important.
I hope so. Yeah, and like we've said before, it's a great leveler, I guess, not having the fans around, because Dortmund away with fans is totally different thing from Dortmund away without fans, and they've had their own, as I already mentioned, bad league result on the weekend too. So they're not untouchable. We know already that we can beat them. So yeah, I mean, this is what we're in the competition for, really, is to look forward to nights like this and moments like this. I mean, away to Dortmund, it's a shame that none of us can be there and make the most of the experience. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, in this case, it's positive for Lazio because, as you said, that since COVID, Lazio at home has been struggling. It's the same thing for all the other teams. The home advantage has disappeared, and we know how Borussia Dortmund was very tough to beat away because of the fans, and this make it much easier for Lazio and for all the teams that played against Dortmund away. So this will be definitely a positive thing for Lazio in a series of negative things that COVID brought to Lazio. So let's be happy about this, and we'll be back live after the Champions League match on YouTube and on Twitter. So join us after the match. Thank you, Alistair.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Cheers.
Bye-bye.